Welcome back to State of the Franchise, the podcast that discusses franchises of all sizes, shapes, backgrounds, flavors, genres, and types. I am your host, Tom Stadler, here with my glorious co-host, Fred Dakin. Fred, how are you today?
I'm good. Is that a new chair?
It's the same chair I've always sat in.
It looks new to me. I think I would have recognized that if I've seen that chair before. That's a new chair.
I think it's the same chair I've had every episode, Fred.
Okay. Well, it's good to be here. Very excited. We got a great guest today. And can I just see the serial number at the back of that chair?
I would rather we just kind of move on with the show, if that's okay.
How come I'm always on the couch?
I gave you the captain's chair not even 2 weeks ago, or what was it, a month ago.
Oh, okay. Maybe we could start switching back and forth. So do you?
If that's what's going to make you feel validated in this, Fred, I guess we can do that.
Just think about it.
All right. So obviously we have Larry David here today, taking over for Fred Dakin. Fred, we obviously have a very exciting topic this week to discuss. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Obviously a show that has been running on and off for, what has it been now, 20 years officially, something like that?
Yeah, it's been going a while. They don't do one every year, but it's been around for a while.
Yeah, and for anyone who's not familiar with Curb Your Enthusiasm, it is a show, it's a brainchild of Larry David, the co-creator of Seinfeld, who then decided to do I guess it's like a mockumentary style, and I'm excited to get our guest take on that. Maybe he can help fill in the gaps with it, but it's all inane plots developed by Larry and his crew, and they kind of fill in the blanks literally with improvised scenes, right?
Yeah, the elevator pitch would be like improvised Seinfeld, but Larry David kind of plays all the characters at different times almost. Like, he's definitely more Costanza, but we'll also get into that later.
I was just going to say, we have to talk about his origin, but lest we wait any longer to introduce our guest, this week we have with us Milwaukee comedian Mike Schwantz. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. How you feeling?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
I like it.
So, Mike, you are a self-proclaimed, Seinfeld and Curb Your Fanatic, or Curb Your Fanatic, Curb Your Enthusiasm fanatic.
I would say that, yes. Seinfeld more than Curb, but they're hand in hand.
Okay. I mean, they are I don't know that you have to be both a fan of Seinfeld and Curb to like one or the other, but...
No, you don't. But frame of reference is always helpful, especially when it's a callback.
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, kind of wanted to get in a sense, though. So, where did you even get started with watching Curb, and why have you become such a big fan of the series now?
So I actually didn't start watching Curb until I was 19.
Oh,
When I was living on the east side over by UWM. One of my roommates had several seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm on DVD, and we started watching it, and I was like, this is a show that my mom was watching in early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And I was just hooked. I think it was the car Periscope episode was the first one that I saw. And I was like, this is Seinfeld. This is just like Seinfeld. And from that moment, I was like, okay, let's go back to the beginning and let's just watch it all.
Oh, wow.
So I binged it all in a couple weeks.
Okay. So you had seen Seinfeld before you started watching Curb then?
Yes.
Okay.
Mostly with reruns on TV with my parents. But yeah, I just loved it. Being Jewish wasn't a lot of other than Fran Drescher on The Nanny, wasn't many very Jewish themed sitcoms. Not that it was Jewish themed, The Nanny, but
no, but I think it had that implication, or there were tones of it, right?
Yeah, they were bringing the cultural stuff in episodes and all that, much like Seinfeld does.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting because now Seinfeld is not only just the most revered sitcom of all time, but I think I mean, where does it even stand in the pantheon of all these things? The fact that you have a show like Curb, which is the same brainchild, and it's like it's as good. I don't know.
As good, better, maybe.
Ooh. Whoa, that's fire out the gate.
The thing about that saying it's better is, without Seinfeld, there is no Curb. You know, why would you care about this guy? Who is this guy? Is some failed comedian from the '80s? Why do I want to watch him do anything? You know.
Yeah, and certainly you would think that if some version of Curb ever did exist, it's nothing like what we're seeing now, right?
Right.
Yeah, because there's so many things that play off of Seinfeld. So you started watching it all through, you watched it all the way back through, and now you just continue to watch it over and over again?
Not as much as Seinfeld. I'll still watch Seinfeld. I've seen Seinfeld so much, but I'll still watch it if it's on. You know, Curb. It hurts sometimes to watch Curb. You watch a lot of it through your fingers, and it's like, oh, Larry, why would you just? Why can't you just let it be? Why can't you just walk away and let them do their thing? Yeah, sure, they're jerks. Whatever. Go home. Go home, Larry. He can't. He can't do that.
Yeah.
You know. Not. I don't mean to bother. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You mean to bother. You mean to bother. That's why you said something, Larry.
We should mention that Schwantz is wearing... Oh, Mike Schwantz. I'm used to calling him by his last name because we used to work at Jimmy John's together.
That's okay, baby. I
and
go by
everyone's a
whatever you want to call
last
me.
name, and I do like that name. It's Schwantz. So I'll probably keep calling him that throughout the episode, so just get used to it. But he right now is wearing the Kramer lobster shirt, which is pretty on point. I think this is the first time I've seen it in person.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely my favorite shirt. 100%.
It's a wonderful shirt.
Thank
I
you.
have to say.
Appreciate that. Wish y'all could see this, but
Perhaps we'll have to get a photo, and we can use that to help promote the episode. Because obviously, you've also brought a number of props here too. I think most Seinfeld fans would recognize. We have a bag of.
Can they recognize by the sound? Let's see. Do these sound salty?
These pretzels might make you thirsty because they are pretzels.
pretzels, yes.
We have a box of Junior Mints.
They're out of my reach, so I'm not going to shake them.
You can all imagine the sound of shaken Junior Mints. And then we have some Snapples. Now, remind me, what was the episode with that one again?
With the Snapples?
Yeah.
The one that sticks out in my mind is with Babu when he got deported and his brother came in and they're like, Snapple? No. Snapple? No. Ah, too fruity. Snapple? No. Or with the Virgin also.
Oh.
With Jane Leaves, is that it? From
Yes,
Frasier?
Frasier fame.
Oh.
Yeah. It was always something that was in Jerry's refrigerator. Yoo-hoo is what I had planned to bring here, but you know.
We could not get our hands on some Yoo-hoo.
That's
We
too
did. We
bad.
didn't go to like an actual grocery store. We went to Walgreens, so that's probably on us.
Yeah,
but we were short on time, and Tom, he's real hard on us if we don't show up on time. He locks the door, and I have to podcast from outside.
Yeah, if there's one thing that comes across in this podcast is how hard ass I am. Yeah, it's funny though, because I think there's just so much that you can relate back to not only Seinfeld from Curb, but just also to Curb too, because even when I see a carpool lane, I always think of the episode.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, you just got to pick somebody up. All you need is one other person in your passenger seat.
I've called so many people a schmohawk while driving, which I always feel
Seriously.
weird about because I always Google it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is made up.
Yeah.
Am I being the worst? But no, I like it.
Yeah. Fred, where was your start in your journey with Curb?
Well, I would say I got into Seinfeld when I first moved to Milwaukee. I was about 16 or 17, and my mom would go out of town, and you know, I'm a pretty resourceful cook, so she would leave me money for like pizza, whatever. I remember going and buying from a used DVD place like Media Exchange the DVDs because I could really maximize my time with a set of DVDs, and I just kept over time like buying the packs of them, and that would just fill a whole weekend of watching pretty much, and I just really got into it. I remember when I was younger, I thought sitcoms were like just boring adult bullshit, you
Yeah.
know, but like now I'm older. The sitcoms of the 90s are like, it's some of the best comedy of the 90s. Like, I love Frasier. I love Seinfeld. This is the stuff I watch, like, over and over again. Like, Seinfeld is not 8 seasons? 9 seasons?
9 seasons of Seinfeld.
9 seasons of Seinfeld, 11 seasons of Frasier. I've probably gone through both of those, like, countless times.
Oh, man. And it's easy to do. I mean, and it's not an easy task in the sense of it. It's just easy to do once you get started. And now we're on 11 seasons of Curb, which thank you for correcting me earlier, Mike, before we even got started.
And they're going for more, so that they went past
going.
the Frasier level.
Yep.
Which is kind of funny to think about, that the Larry David show is going to have more seasons than Seinfeld and Frasier.
Yeah. But you kind of look at the way Curb is formatted, and just that it does feed off of all the ideas that come to Larry. And I think, it was something that even when I think about where I got started, it didn't seem like my kind of thing. When I first saw the show on TV, I'm like, there's no way I'll ever get into this. This doesn't look like interesting. Because even at that point, I was still kind of lukewarm on Seinfeld. My dad watched a ton growing up, and my mom did too. But I was always like, yeah, this show looks funny, but same thought as you, Fred. Like, sitcoms, nah, that's just seems like adult stuff, not really for me. But then I finally sat down and watched Curb. I actually got DVDs from somebody who was just done using them. They like burned them all to their computer. Like, here,
Sort of creepy DVDs.
yeah.
Like, if anyone, like, you should Google them, because it's like usually him, but like he'll be like a fleet of people and they all have his head, like a Being John Malkovich thing. Like, they're abstract as hell.
It's very bizarre. I still have the DVDs in a DVD case in my living room. I'll show you guys after the show.
Oh, nice.
And I might add, the only DVD that I can think of, the way that it opens out, because it opens from the top and bottom. You know when it like slides out?
Oh.
Are you not familiar
I
with
just
this?
don't remember.
I got the discs only, so I never saw the cases.
You pull from like the bottom, and a disc slides out the top, and a disc slides out the bottom in like a little tray.
That's kind of cool, though.
It is. However, they get broken immediathy, pretty much, because you don't pull on it the right way,
Oh, I'm sure.
and then you just have to force it out. Then, so I
Yeah.
don't understand why they made that decision.
Yeah, those DVD series packs really like did some interesting stuff, I feel.
They sure did.
Yeah, they made some artistic choices.
It kind of feels like the Larry David character, though, right? He always likes to be ahead of the curve. Like, he's like looking.
Ahead of the curb.
Oh, yes. But he's like always coming up with like weird inventions, like
That's a very good point, actually.
with the coffee mug that like keeps itself warm, right? Like,
Yeah. and like the car pee tube that who wouldn't want to pee in their car while driving? I guess.
yeah. But it's definitely funny just thinking back on that now, because there was definitely a time, like I said, when I didn't feel like I liked it. But when I did finally start watching, I was like, oh, this is hilarious. And then you realize after you watch like 4 episodes in a row, you're like, this is just hurting my heart. And something I wanted to ask you, right, when you were talking about before, Mike, but I wanted to wait to hear, some of Fred's background too. This kind of feels like it was around the time when single camera sitcoms really started to take off, but also maybe the first like appearance of like cringe TV, like even before The Office. Mm-hmm. Is this maybe the first cringe show that was like on cable? Or sorry, not cable, HBO.
I'm kind of wondering if he just saw like the Ricky Gervais Office and said, I want to do something like that. Because I don't know which one supersedes the other.
I was just going to say that, because I'm not sure. I'm not huge on The Office. I like The Office, but I'm not sure on dates its first season was. But I do believe that the British Office was before Curb. Because first Curb was 1999. That was the first hour special, Larry David Curb Enthusiasm.
But the UK office didn't debut until July of 2001. Oh. So maybe Gervais saw Larry.
Interesting.
And was like, I can do this too.
Wow, 97? And that's like a special?
99.
99, and that's like a standalone special?
So it was originally only, Curb Enthusiasm was only going to be an hour special. And it actually started out as being like a mockumentary. If you go back and watch the original one, the first scene has Larry and Jeff coming out of the elevator doors. Jeff looks right at the camera and waves.
Oh, wow.
However, they never do it again. And a lot of that stuff in that original pilot, episode 0, so to speak, is non-canon.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting.
It is interesting because, like you mentioned, they do follow that Office format, Parks and Rec, but there's no aside where he talks directly to the camera ever.
I think it's better for it.
I agree, because half the stuff that Larry do, he would never do if there were people watching.
No.
Let's be honest.
That's true. Well, and also, like, you think about, you don't need to see him interviewed because he says what he feels at all times.
Right. Yeah, you don't need those like office likes, what do they call those, confidentials? And because he's just gonna tell somebody exactly what he thinks. Like, it takes you going back to the episodes, I feel like, to realize what a schlub he is. And he's like Funkhauser's dad dies in that episode, the carpool lane, and he's like, well, he's not going to use his baseball tickets. I'll just go and ask him, right? Like that'll be a shame if nobody used them. It's like
Larry, dude. Like, let the man have his time. Like, let him be. No, he's not using them. What's the big deal?
And I feel Funkhauser, I'm going to throw out right now, MVP. Just of the whole show. Like,
He's
with so much shit.
very nice character.
that's a good Funkhauser. I get him confused though in this show too with when he's the surrogate for the dad of the Booth family in Arrested Development, when he's got the camera on his head and he's like speaking for what's his name? Oh, it's George Booth Sr. I can't think of the actor's name, which is probably okay because
Jeffrey Tambor?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah, he's not on good graces in Hollywood. But all that to say that, yeah, I think with Curb, you do have kind of an innovator there, and it's possible he might have seen something, in the UK or something that was like, oh, this was officially the first, but like he popularized it, right? Like that format
Absolutely.
has to be tied to Curb at the very beginning.
Yeah, and I just feel like it's also a great way for him to keep making seasons with full artistic control, because they probably make all those episodes for pennies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, their budget, it used to, because before the high-tech smartphones, you really didn't have any good cameras. A lot of times they even shoot them on iPhones now. And it's just, they started with nothing. That's why if you go back and watch the old one, season 1 and season 2, it's like a crappy home movie. Like, what is this garbage? I'm not going to fucking watch this. This is no. But then you get to the later ones, and it's just, it's clear. It's brilliant almost.
Yeah. It's really a higher quality shot than I think you even expect. Like, I was jarred when I went back to season 2. This can't be the same show. This looks like it was shot on somebody's home camera. Like, it looks like that low quality, which I think is a great launching pad for us to get into the whole history of the series. I mean, there's not a lot of history. I think you kind of hit on it already, Mike, but started in 99 with like their 1 hour special that just kind of became this cinema verite like style series. And over the seasons, it just kind of progressed. They introduced a lot of new characters. Now we're on, like we said before, 11 seasons and 110 episodes in total. And now a 12th season around the corner at some point, but not exactly sure where.
The HBO kind of just lets Larry just do it. Just come back, please. Just please come back, and we'll do whatever you want, Larry. It's okay. You win.
He's just that. I mean, it really does get a lot of critical acclaim, a lot of ratings. I mean, it was a ratings darling right out the gate for HBO. So I think it was a no-brainer. That it's like, yeah, whenever he does want to come back, they're like, okay, we'll find a slot for you Sunday nights. You're in.
Do they get medals for the show at all? Like, Emmys or anything? Because I don't ever really hear about Curb getting an Emmy. And you think about Seinfeld. Well, now I'm kind of second guessing myself because I don't know if Seinfeld was definitely a Emmy winner. I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus probably has an Emmy from it. Jason Alexander probably has an Emmy.
I don't believe that Michael Richards does.
I was about to say I'm pretty sure he did, but he's at least been I think everyone's been nominated probably except for Jerry because he's just kind of there.
He's Jerry Seinfeld, you know.
Yeah, he gets by because it's his jokes. Well, not all of it, but like it's his style.
Right. The show's called Seinfeld. You know, what are you gonna do? Replace Jerry Seinfeld with somebody?
It would have been kind of funny if they did try that, though, for at least like an episode. Would anyone notice Larry's missing? Or Jerry's missing? Mm-hmm. Jerry and Larry.
Yeah.
So the series received a total of 47 Primetime Emmy Award nominations, only won twice. Outstanding directing in the episode Crazy Eyes Killer.
Ooh, almost
Great
made
episode.
some of my lists.
That was by Robert B. White. And then had outstanding single camera picture editing for a comedy series for Stephen Rash on the episode Palestinian Chicken.
Ooh, Stephen
Another good
Rash.
episode.
That's he's like Community, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, Stephen Rash. Is he related to Jim Rash?
I don't know. Wait, is that the guy from Big Bang Theory?
No, Jim Rash is the dean.
The Dean? He's Jim Rash?
Yeah, he is a writer too. So actually, it wouldn't shock me if he did have a brother or a cousin or somebody who was also in Hollywood.
Jim Parsons is the guy from Big Bang Theory.
Bazinga is the war cry of the Sheldon.
I should have said he's the guy from the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie because he's in that at the end.
I've never
Jim
saw him.
Parsons was in
He's
that.
the lawyer, and it's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so often nominated, but very rarely a winner.
One
So-
for Tech Awards.
yeah, which is interesting. I guess though it's because they're like, oh, everybody's playing a version of themselves. I get it, but I don't know. It's kind of lame. Oh, it says, and the series has received 9 nominations for Outstanding Comedy Series. Larry David 6 nominations for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series.
Okay, so it's getting the noms.
Yeah, just not much of a winner. So yeah, anything I missed from the history standpoint?
I mean, pretty much covers it. You mentioned it's mostly improv. It's cringe humor. Yeah.
All right. So I guess knowing that we do still have something coming yet, which is exciting. I think we will talk a little bit about where they could go with the series when we finally get to our coulda, woulda, shoulda segment. But what are some of the things that not only you guys both enjoy so far, but what are some of the things that you always like to come back to? Like what's the thing that you always look forward to when you think about Curb, or like when you turn on an episode of Curb? Maybe you can kick us off, Mike.
What it used to be is, how's Larry going to screw up this week? And then it kind of came to who's going to be on this season, because they did start throwing in more celebrities here and there, but it really comes down to who's Larry going to piss off.
Yeah.
Larry's going to say something wrong. He's going to do something, maybe even with the right intention. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It'll blow up in his face. He's always wrong. He's always got to apologize. It's great.
Is there anyone in particular that you look forward to that he upsets?
Susie.
Yes.
Susie. Oh, Jeff. Oh God, dude, it is just she's the best. She's the best bitch. Is the best way I can explain it.
Yes.
She's fantastic.
Yeah. So I mean, just to give a highlight, I think for anybody who for some reason is not familiar with Curb listening to this, so I mean, it revolves around Larry and his in fantasy world agent Jeff, who has his wife Susie, and she is unmatchable, I think, at anyone's energy.
Yeah, she's great. I would say someone I always am waiting to see for sure is Leon.
Adding Leon to Curb Enthusiasm was one of the best decisions that they ever did.
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure.
Absolutely.
They just let JB Smooth do whatever he wants, and he's always great. I feel like watching him like ad lib, because they let him like do like 3 takes at anything, you know?
Yeah.
But like his move, which like he's got a lot, but I love he'll be like, it's this thing, it's that thing, it's this thing. And then he'll like somehow combine all the things, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he's just the way he rattles off just like random things that like it's just things he knows, and he's so confident in everything he tells Larry, right? Like, you got to do this, man.
It's funny you mentioned confidence. He actually has a book. It's called Book of Leon, Philosophy of a Fool.
Oh, come on.
And I was, I've been meaning to read it for a while. I ended up finding it on audiobook, narrated by Leon himself, JB Smoove, and oh my God, it's so worth a listen. It was fantastic. I was laughing my butt off. It was great. And it has all his confident bullshit, like oh yeah, you gotta do this. You gotta make them think you're doing this, going there, and you switch it on them. It's a best greatest hits of Leon through the series almost.
It's outstanding. It all kind of felt like it came to a culmination too in last season when he had that episode where it's like, oh, I can get that done for you. Like, I'll do that for you, like, for pennies or whatever. Or like, I got a guy who could do that.
Right.
And it's like, it doesn't take an hour to fix a water pipe or something like that. And then all the accidents are just happening everywhere.
Well, what I've realized is Leon is a black Kramer.
Yes.
He is. He's the neighbor that he's always over. He's always using his stuff. He's always got a guy who knows a guy. Oh, I got that shit for you. Don't worry, buddy. I got you.
Yeah, he throws out the crazy idea at the beginning, and then like they have to resort to that idea by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Sort of like, it was funny when you were saying that the audiobook was narrated by, I thought you were gonna say Larry David. Because I feel that'd be like almost the second best thing, just that almost, Larry David reading it.
Do I really have to do this? I really have to do this. Like,
yeah. You want to fix a pipe? I'll tell you how you do it. That's great. So yeah, definitely JB Smoove, great. Susie Green, amazing in her role. I don't know, Fred. You said Bob Einstein is among the MVPs of the series, but he's got some stiff competition.
Yeah, well, like he's MVP because I feel like he gets less for what he does. I feel like he's always taking all the shit.
It's how he considers Larry his best friend is beyond me because, like you said, Larry does some messed up crap to him.
Yeah, I just watched the episode where the whole thing is the way to get out of a party is to show up the next day thinking like that's the day of the party.
Yeah.
And I love it when Weinstein's just like, oh, I can't do the voice. But he's like, we got plenty of food. Come in. We can play games. Like, and they're just like, their souls are being crushed. And I just love it so much.
Their commitment to just not participating in like society's norms is always like him and Jeff especially. Mm-hmm. It's like they bend over backwards to do stuff that it's like just rip it off like a Band-Aid and be done with this stuff. Yeah, I mean it just lives in this very surreal reality, and I think it's the best part of the show, yeah. Right?
In a way. Larry's. I don't want to say Larry is almost every one of us because he always like, well, why do we do this? Like, well, that's just the way we do it. Okay, why? Why can't you? And that's just what makes like Curb and Seinfeld interesting because that's what they address. All this little like stuff in between that maybe you don't really think about. You do it every day, but you do it anyways.
Yeah, I mean, right. And he calls out all the stuff that we all know we hate, right? Like we certainly hate like certain things about driving or going to the cafe. It's like somebody's like at the counter, like still choosing, and it's like you got to make up your mind by the time you're up there. And he's like, he definitely, it's those moments where you're like, yes, I wish there was somebody like Larry David in real life who would be like, hey, your time's up. Like you've taken 5 minutes here. Like you're good. You got to be ready.
Yeah, I feel like when I watch it, because I'm a person who gets really bad anxiety when stuff like that happens near me in real life. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, I can watch Curb and other stuff like Ricky Gervais' old stuff is way more cutting and not as good, I will say. But like just gets way worse and way more intense. Curb, for some reason, I can just watch it and be like, oh shit, like, I don't know why, but it doesn't affect me, but I totally get it. Like it is like that cringe stuff sometimes, but it doesn't bother me. It does feel a little like just going with like your dad who's a little older, who like always is questioning things. And like when he still hears something costs more than he thinks it should, he's really going to ask is that really the price? Like, oh God! And they do all that, like, but he's just like the funny version of that.
Right. Yes, Yeah, how they made this cynical asshole basically a lovable character is kind of strange. Well, when Curb came out at the same time on HBO, also The Sopranos, and not maybe necessarily a likable character who people love. Like they loved The Sopranos. Anyone who watched from the beginning, they'll still go back and watch them.
That's an interesting parallel, Mike.
I've actually never seen more than just the pilot of The Sopranos.
I have not seen much of The Sopranos either myself.
All right. Peace out.
So is the thing that Tony Soprano is kind of like a dick who's pretty likable?
I mean, he's a criminal, and this is, when did this idolize, not I don't want to say idolize criminals, but criminals at some point became a main focus of a lot of TV shows,
right?
Movies, and et cetera,
I'm-
et cetera.
Well, it's also Tony Soprano's super charming. He's a piece of shit, but he's like charming. Like
Yeah.
so,
And,
I think go ahead. You're gonna say the same thing I'm about to say.
yeah, Larry can be charming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can be an asshole too, but his intentions are always good. There's always a reason that he's being a jerk, more or less. I don't want to say always,
Yeah.
but
Do you think that's why it's believable that he would get with like as many women as he does throughout the show's run? That he has that charm?
you could say that. I wouldn't necessarily. It's funny because I don't think he's an attractive looking man at all. I think he's just a really weird, ugly looking dude.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every so often they got some hair on him. When he's Buck Dancer, when he's doing that Scorsese film, you don't look too bad, man. Also, I can think of two women specifically that said that they thought Larry David was attractive. Like, I don't want to name names, but I could.
I believe it, but also I just feel like he's got like Scrooge McDuck money too, though. So that helps. That
that
helps.
most certainly.
But like to the
helps.
point where he's dating Lucy Liu is that believable?
Yeah.
And Lucy Lawless, even.
Elizabeth Banks,
Oh my gosh. It's almost like that's the absurdity of the show too, right? That there are these people that probably in real life would only associate with Larry David because he is Larry David.
Sure.
So it almost is funny to be like, oh yeah, women of course would be attracted to him because he's got that McDuckism to him. It's funny to think about in that regard too, because I wonder too, like even just with his friends, like at what point does a friend who even has that much clout and does all that shit to you over time stop being your friend? Like we were talking about Terry Funkhauser before, and it's like even Richard Lewis, like I feel like he's got it worse than anybody.
Richard Lewis gets it pretty bad, but also Richard Lewis has like a Charlie Brown thing going in that show too. Like the universe of Curb hates Richard Lewis.
Yeah. He is kind of an aw shucks guy for sure.
Richard Lewis, the man in black, not Johnny Cash. Richard Lewis.
That's right.
The guy who coined the phrase "blank from hell."
Yeah. That's right.
Is that right?
Self-claimed.
Yeah, that's one of the apps I watched today. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
The blank from blank.
I was like, is this part of his stand-up act? I know he was a stand-up for a long time.
So I was just thinking too. I just want to double back to Seinfeld real quick. That I think the two difference between the shows, it's the writing versus the improv. I feel like Seinfeld may be a tighter show. I'm gonna take quality off the table. I'm just saying like the writing and story is tighter because it's a sitcom. It kind of has to be like a Curb episode. I feel like can be anywhere from 30 to an hour long, so it can tell the story it needs. But the improv also like is adding another ingredient that's totally not in a scripted sitcom. Correct. No one, Kramer's doing different moves or something, but the dialogue's pretty much on the page.
Right. Well, and it's interesting you bring that up too, because George Costanza is obviously based on Larry David in Seinfeld. So he's written to be like Larry, whereas in Curb, Larry is playing himself. And which is the better version?
Well, so I mean, he plays what he says is the version he would like to be. He wished he could do this type of stuff in real life, but at least you like Larry. I mean, George does all this crap and like he only apologizes if he's caught.
Yeah.
He never feels bad. He never learns from anything. He doesn't learn a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you ask anybody, like George is a jerk. You know. I love George personally.
That's my favorite Seinfeld character for sure.
Seinfeld is the George Costanza show. Let's be honest.
I think so. I was just gonna say, I kind of said it before. I do believe Larry. He's like 30 to 40% Costanza, but I think the rest, he's a blend of the other characters for sure.
I would say
Yeah.
Kramer especially too.
Yeah, Kramer and Jerry and all of them. Just because like the more I think about it, like he does love some physical comedy. I've learned watching this show. If he can do a little physical bit, he will do it.
Oh, for sure.
And then with Jerry, it's the not interest in doing things is the big thing. You know, like he's I don't want to go to that party. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big Jerry Seinfeld thing. I will say it's hard to compare the Larry David and George Costanza thing because you're also talking about one guy is playing himself, and the other guy is like doing one of the like top 3 performances in a sitcom, maybe top 5 ever. So that's my one thing. I like George a lot. I think I like George more just because that performance is like stage level sitcom stuff. That's like David Hyde Pierce shit.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. Then we had in season 7, right, where they did the Seinfeld reunion, and you
Yep.
bring in all the characters and kind of have them interact in the Curb universe.
Yeah.
And it's the weird crossover, which I think officially made this a franchise. The fact
For
that
sure.
Yeah.
Seinfeld is part of the Curb cinematic universe or whatever.
That
right?
was my Marvel phase too. I'm just guessing that was around what phase they were on at that time.
It's got to be close. If
Oh
not.
09.
09?
Yeah.
It's Iron Man 1 came out that year.
Oh, dang. So, wow, that's crazy.
So it's definitely an interesting thing to have his creations come into interaction with his other creation that's a version all of himself. It's almost like a Doctor Strange early.
And it even gets
iteration.
even more meta when the character the character version of Jason Alexander
Jeremy Piven?
did that.
Is that his doppelganger in the?
In Seinfeld.
In the originals,
He's the guy who's going to be in the studio version.
The
Oh,
show
that's
Jerry,
right,
which
that's
is sort of
right,
takes
that's
place
right.
within the show. But you know, when Larry plays George for that bit, for that little while on the new Seinfeld episodes, it's like he's playing himself, but it's a character of himself, but it's him playing it. And it wasn't good. Wasn't good.
Yeah.
He was doing like the big acting and all that
Yeah.
my man Alexander can handle.
He
Right.
tried to be too George, and it just wasn't George. It just wasn't George. He's tried to be George too much, and that's not George.
You never go full George.
Never go full George.
It's interesting, yeah, that it did come to a culmination like that, and then Curb kept going. It almost kind of felt like that's almost where you put the pin in the show. But then we continued on for 4 more seasons, and now everything's been kind of interspersed by like 2 or 3 years each.
Just about, yeah.
And he comes back with season 8, a couple years later, which we'll get into this later. Absolute banger of a season. Like, he came out shots firing. Like, that was some of the best Curb I had seen in a while too.
Yeah.
Like,
that is, yeah.
Yeah, it might come up later.
so I think what's interesting though about that is that he could have these ideas still kind of percolating in his head. I know you kind of saying that's really not him in real life, but wasn't it like last year, like during the pandemic when he ran into like Trump's lawyer at like a supermarket and he started calling him out? Am I making this story up?
I didn't see
I'm
this.
not familiar with this. Is this, yeah.
Yeah, there was like
Pull it up.
Alan Dershowitz. That's what I was thinking
Oh,
of.
Okay.
Yeah, it says Larry David screamed at Alan Dershowitz at a grocery store over his ties to Trump. And yeah, it says apparently like someone overheard them talking, and Dershowitz was like, "We can still talk, Larry." And Larry's like, "No, we really can't. I saw you with your arm around him. It's disgusting." He just keeps going back and forth. And he's like, Dershowitz was trying to defend. He's like, "No, he's my former student." And Larry just kept telling him it's disgusting. You're whole enclave. It's disgusting. You're disgusting. It's just funny to hear these overheard or just this exchange that wasn't at all for a show. This is real life, and it's like, so Larry is kind of himself in real life too.
Yeah,
Maybe
I've heard stories that I like on other podcasts, like celebrities who have seen him in public, and they'll like, I heard him at the market, and he was like giving the person shit over some like bullshit thing. And they're like, I felt like I was watching Curb. So he's just running around Los Angeles like being like a milder version of Larry David, I think.
I guess after 22 years, people kind of just expect that from him. He just embraces it. He's like, you know what? Yes, I am this person.
Yeah, do you think he gets away with that now because people don't hold him to the standard of a normal person anymore?
I think if he is going to be a jerk like that people might think he's joking.
Right.
You know, like he's just like, yeah, that's his character. That's how he always is.
That's typical Larry, just so glib.
It's like he's doing it more successfully than Chevy Chase ever did.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, Chevy's a tough hang for everybody.
Tom hangs out every other week, and it's just real bad.
I have to like wear a hood as I like go and meet him in a cafe.
And he just slaps you right when he sees you.
Why the hell were you late? Just kidding. So yeah, what are some other things that I guess you guys really enjoy or you think really make the series like the highlight of whenever you watch it?
Growing up, my mother is Jewish, and Curb is like the super Jewish version of Seinfeld. I've never seen anybody on any television show other than actually Frasier. I can think about. They went to temple. That's the only other show I can think of that they went to the synagogue.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and it's more than just going. They have they had a whole Passover episode when they're at the Seder. And they did a whole episode when Larry, when he finds out that he's adopted, or he thinks he's adopted, and he goes all, in his words, Gentile, and he does what he believed that Gentiles do. He's like fishing and hunting, and it's like, oh God. But I just never seen anything like that on a sitcom before.
right.
I think that's what I learned about like Seder's and Passover was probably from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Or that Rugrats episode from the 90s.
Or the Passover one.
yeah.
And they did a Hanukkah special, right?
Did.
Wow, I did not know that.
But that's definitely
We're gonna have to do a Rugrats episode.
yeah. We'll see it for the Nicktoons, the sequel to the Disney Afternoon one.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, we might have to come back and do a Seinfeld episode. Is what I'm kind of hearing too. But we're not going to make 100 promises that you guys can't hold us to in the listening audience. We're just going to keep doing stuff, and you're going to keep hopefully finding things you enjoy. But I do like that. That is something that it was very progressive about in introducing this culture, and it didn't make a thing of it, right?
No.
They're just going. This is their life, like. And he cast a lot of like Jewish cast members too, and it's just good representation, I think, all around in that regard. For as much as the show does try to be intentionally uncomfortable and problematic in some of those situations.
I think it hits on certain trends of the time depending on this season.
Right.
And you get to have like Larry David's comment about like what's the thing right now, like having Lin-Manuel Miranda just being on an episode. Like,
Oh, that was his character. I hated his character. Oh, I hated him so much in that season. I just despised him. Which is funny because I like him and everything else. He's great.
isn't he a little stinker? And I only
he's a
watched
little
it once.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a little shit.
Because that's what you want to do if you're gonna be on Curb. Like I want to make your life miserable, or I want you to make my life miserable.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And there are so many people that I think lean into that to such a degree. And it's fun to even see, and I'll definitely bring this up later too, but even like the Michael J. Fox episode where I mean, there is nobody alive that probably doesn't feel bad for Michael J. Fox and is like, oh my God, horrible. He's like this. And then you get this episode where Larry is just like, this fucking guy.
Who doesn't like Michael J. Fox? What's wrong with you, Larry?
It's just those types of things that he leans into that I just enjoy. And it creates such tension that it's like you're hard to look away, even though it's so hard to watch, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe then we can start shifting then into the coulda, woulda, shoulda segment of our episode. So what are some things that you guys wish that Curb may have done differently? Some things they could have done differently, or maybe some things that they should do as we look ahead to season 12 and beyond, if that ends up being a thing?
I would love like a in theaters Curb experience that was like, when like back in the day, like a TV show would do a movie and you could see the money on the screen. Mm-hmm. Like if you told me you got like a prestige director, like get Martin Scorsese to come and like shoot like a real weird, like him doing his Joker, but better because he's actually Martin Scorsese. But like a real, as you said, cinema verite, wild Curb movie sounds good. Mm-hmm. But then I always think about his last foray into a Larry David centric movie, that Clear History.
Yeah.
Don't remember anything about that. And I know I just remember it wasn't that funny.
It was all right. It was mostly improv, which go figures. Larry David project had other people from Curb, John Hamm, J.B. Smoove. His wife at the beginning was the woman that Larry and Rosie O'Donnell were fighting over.
Oh, okay.
The episode labeled The Bisexual.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's just there's not much memorable, nothing that sticks out other than Larry had hair at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I remember looking at that picture. I'm like, that's Larry David.
Right.
I think the only thing I remember from that movie is that they called the car the Howard.
And yeah, which is the most ridiculous name for a vehicle. Like, come on now, the Howard.
It reminded me of that Simpsons episode where Homer's brother let him design a car, and he called it the Homer. Yeah, and it's just this like ridiculous car that had like a bubble like roof and stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as other like coulda, woulda, shoulda, I'm gonna say I think he shoulda keep making it the way he's making it, and I'm content over here. And take your time. I love that. A little advice for Larry David out there. If he needs a little advice from me, keep taking your time.
What I do think that he should do more often, and he's done it a couple times in the previous seasons, is have one overall theme or story going on during the whole season, which is great because when it all comes together and ties in at the end, it's just it's either fantastic or it's a fantastic explosion. You can't look away.
Right.
For sure. I love those seasons that really build to something, like the musical season.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right.
Or when he's opening the coffee shop, right? He's like trying to find all the things
The
for
spite
it.
story he had.
Yeah.
It's like, how's he going to find the beans? Where's he going to go?
I will say, and I feel weird about this, I don't know if it was any good, but I remember at the time kind of liking that Woody Allen, Larry David movie, Whatever Works.
Oh.
Yeah, that was it's creepy. Let's be honest, it's creepy. It's really
definitely
creepy.
with the background because he dates like a younger girl and all that. But I remember having funny parts in that. But I'm gonna say that to say this. I would also love him to kind of put himself in the hands of someone else who's gonna let him kind of do his thing, but let them sort of set the stage, like a Bill Hader. Like I'd love like if Bill Hader and Larry David were making a show together.
That would be so interesting because Barry is just like the furthest thing that you could imagine from coming from Bill Hader, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, he used to be an editor like back in the day, I'm pretty sure. So he knows his way around like film and stuff, and I think his episodes are like the best directed episodes. They like you can tell like, oh, this must be one of his when you watch it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for certain. I think there was a couple episodes where there was some pretty intense action scenes in that show, and you're like, oh, Bill Hader's got an eye for this. Like, you almost kind of want to see him take a stab at like a Mission Impossible. Although that's McQuarrie's territory. I don't think anybody's touching that. Tom Cruise has something to say about it.
Yeah, you don't
Like-
double cross Tom Cruise.
Right, give him that like Jordan Peele sort of deal. Like let him make like a movie with a decent budget. And I would love to see that. Now we're talking about someone else's.
But I was gonna actually tie it
HBO?
back though.
Oh, I like it.
But go ahead.
I just said HBO.
Oh yeah, I mean HBO
There we
could
go.
definitely jump on
Come
this.
on now.
But it is interesting to see how many comedians that kind of came along through the system as just straight like sketch comedians, right? And now they're really delving into these dark topics, these horror films, these kind of like black comedies. And Curb kind of always tiptoes into like not quite going dark. Would it be something to see Larry kind of dip his toe into that more cynical, really like kind of dark satire?
I mean those Scorsese shots where you see like the little clips. I'm pretty about it.
Yeah.
You mentioned horror. All I can think about is like Larry in like a horror movie, and it's like, I shouldn't go down in the basement.
Yeah.
and credits.
Yeah.
The door just closes on the closet and the credits roll.
Right.
Boom, 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 ba-da.
But if you look at like the way I think you were bringing up before, Fred, the way Barry is shot, it's like a dark comedy like that. It's almost like a drama with like comedic undertones, and you could almost kind of see Larry in maybe that Henry Winkler role a little bit.
Yeah, I like that for sure. Or I was gonna say, it's a pretty messy movie, but I love the guy who made Death to Smoochie. Like just a straight, real black comedy with real bad people and stakes.
Well, it's not that Larry can't. I mean, let's be honest, he's not a great actor, but there's some scenes in Curb when he's like, okay, Larry, like, calm down, pop a vein in your neck, don't go crazy here now. Mm-hmm. Like the Black Swan episode, when everyone's all scared of him, and he's like, shut up with the knife.
For sure.
Like, okay, Larry, like, I won't say nothing, man. Just take it easy.
It's definitely something that you keep an eye on to see, does he really sell what he's doing? And I think he's got such a command too of like his attitude towards things, where he can just kind of call upon like, this scene needs me to be sort of like, no, I don't want to do it, no, I'm good. Or just being, when he gets so like, I love the Larry that gets so over the top, like, oh yeah, you're a big person now. Oh yeah, you go first. No, don't let me get in your way.
He's got spice there.
He does.
Yeah, I would say, I said Death to Smooch, I was talking about the writer, but also another collab I think would be good. A guy who doesn't direct movies anymore, but his kind of movies is Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
I think like an old school, ruthless people, Death to Smoochie, that kind of Throw Mama from a Train.
Yeah.
That kind of comedy starring Larry David.
That could be good. Yeah, Matilda.
Yeah, I didn't say that one because it doesn't really fit the oeuvre of the Danny DeVito films.
Well, DeVito doesn't have a lot of directed films, though, so it's sort of like once you run them down, you might as well say them all.
I know.
There's what's the other one? The War of the Roses, right?
Yeah,
I think so,
yeah, that's another like in that ruthless people, like that kind of movie.
Right.
I could definitely see Larry as Mr. Rose.
Yeah. What about some other things? Maybe even things that we wish that they would have done differently to date. Like, was there any potential for a spinoff up until this point?
I guess Leon's the character to spin off, right?
Sure.
Yes.
But without Larry, like you need. It's funny because when Cheryl, in the earlier seasons, when he's still married to Cheryl, she is like Larry's grounder. You know what I mean? Like she's the one who keeps him like, all right, okay, this is, But when she leaves, Leon becomes the wild one, and Larry comes like, okay, no, Leon, no, you can't just go around me doing that, Leon. And it's. I almost wish that maybe what we're gonna do is spin off with both of them. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I was gonna say it'd be kind of cool if they at least just did like in the last season of Ted Lasso. This isn't like a big spoiler, but the side coach has like a whole episode to himself.
Yeah.
I would love like just like every once in a while, like we're gonna just follow dude.
A day in
for
the life of Leon. That would be
like, it
fantastic,
starts with both of them.
dude.
You set up the thing, and then like, oh, we're following Leon for the rest of the episode.
That's kind of what South Park did at a certain point. They stopped focusing on the kids, and they made like Randy Marsh his own character. There were some seasons when he's like doing Integrity Farms, You don't even see the kids. It's
Right.
just him.
Not only did they make him a character, they made him maybe the funniest character on
Right,
it.
dude.
'Cause
And
Randy Marsh is my favorite character.
He has to be. I mean, you can love Carmen all you want, but Randy Marsh is so much of a better character, at least now.
I mean, isn't he again kind of in the same vein of Larry and George Costanza? He's kind of the surrogate for Trey Parker, right? Like,
Sure.
For sure.
yeah, like it's like him is like becoming an adult and kind of going into like this whole thing of like I'm growing up with this, but still sort of so crazy I'm doing this animated show.
Yeah, like if Trey Parker like didn't leave, I think they're from like Colorado and like stayed in a small Colorado town all his life. Like
Yeah.
that's the Randy Marsh vibe, maybe.
Right, maybe with a few less ridiculous escapades, but so I think those are all good suggestions though, with even just doing those kind of follow-alongs with the side characters. Like maybe that's even better than a spin-off, because then you're not outside of Curb. You're just, here's a day in the life of, yeah,
Not
Leanne.
committed to doing a whole 10-episode season. You can just like we'll do like 1 episode, 2 episodes.
I think that'd be a really fun last season, is that every episode is like, here's Susie's day. Here's, I mean, it's kind of like
You know-
that Arrested Development.
Yeah, I was about to say, we just pitched as the Arrested Development reboot.
Yeah, but the difference would be that all the characters are actually in these episodes
True.
instead of just following.
Or you know what? Take it up one step further. They got the de-aging technology now. This is what happened during here. This is what happened with Leon when he drove from L.A. to New York City when Larry moved to New York City. He had 11 people in that car, 8 people in that motherfucker.
I love it. Like they just get some de-aging technology and they just go wild.
Oh my god, I just want to see Larry like back being like young, especially when they were doing the Young Larry series pitch, right?
What if
Oh
they
my
just
God.
like opened an episode where it's just him on the set of Seinfeld and it's like a crazy de-age version?
Oh yeah,
Just a cold open like
you
that.
you got to think he's had some idea like that, right?
Why not? I mean, he's got the money.
That's the spinoff. Like
Yeah.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, the Seinfeld years, and it's like the season where he left.
Yes.
Oh, like the last season he left, or the season after he left?
Like both. Like it follows that time.
Sure, this
and
is
the
this
show
is
going
why he
without
left.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah, like what was Larry doing after he
that
left?
would be
Seinfeld?
really interesting. Okay, let's say you don't do de-aging technology. Who plays Larry? Who plays young Larry?
I don't know.
Wasn't this the whole plot of the last season that we just watched?
Yes, it was. Who's your young Larry?
Man, that's a hard one because like we don't really have young bald actors that aren't like scary in Hollywood.
Well, think of him. What he used to look like. Give him that fro. Give him that ugly
Like a
ass.
big
Fucking,
froey
give him
guy.
that Larry Fine.
Man.
Griffin Newman, he's kind of short though,
But he still could probably pull it off.
but he's got the hair and the glasses and kind of the look. But
Going back to Arrested Development, I think if it were years ago, David Cross would have been a very interesting Larry
Oh,
David.
Yeah, dude.
if you did that though, yeah, it would be like early Curb.
Right.
But yeah, I'd love like a young David Cross.
That would be. That's good. That's a
Yeah.
good
Bob
I
like
Odenkirk
that.
somewhere in there just to make it a.
He'd be Jeff.
I love it. Okay, so we're not going to get the Seinfeld years. We're going to get Curb season 1
Yeah.
with David Cross,
Yes.
Bob Odenkirk playing the role.
Curb the early years, Mr. Show with Bob and David, right? Like,
Directed by Tim and Eric.
I think you should just get Rick Moranis back now. Like have him the way he looks now. Have him play young Larry.
Rick Moranis should just definitely be on Curb.
I-
at one point.
Yeah.
there's an opening, especially with that incident with him getting like
I
punched.
know. I was thinking that.
Cannot imagine that Larry David did not call him up and be like, I want to do an episode about that.
Sure. I mean, yeah. The incident that he did with Kramer, and what was the other incident that he did with Salman Rushdie?
Yes.
When he brought in Salman Rushdie and like, yeah, you had a fatwa. I have a fatwa. Like, embrace the fatwa.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Perfect. I think there's so much potential, even with just continuing to pull from. I mean, the last 2 years especially, like things have to be running just through his head like mad, right? Like,
Sure.
With everything that's been going on in pop culture and life and in our own country, and
Yeah.
Which I'm going to break the seams and sew it back real quick. I'm watching The Boys and I'm up to date pretty much.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I hadn't watched season 2, and man, season 2 they're laying it on thick, aren't they? And I like it.
season 2 lays it on thick, and then season 3 really threads the needle. Very fun.
I'm very excited. That's been my go-to at home, and I'm like pretty much. I'm on episode like 4 or 5 of season 3.
Yeah, but I'll sew it back because Seth Rogen had a real good bit in last season. One of the scenes that made me laugh the most was him just like chewing out Larry about just being an inconsiderate person. Like it was the most like fitting like opposite like Larry energy in a character I've seen, where he's like telling Larry exactly like how he is. It's like, why are you like this? Like, I'm like, why are you like this? Like,
That's not bad. That's pretty good, actually.
I keep working on my Rogan, not Joe Rogan. So
Before we get to our power ranking thing, should we just talk about some of the guests that they've had on the show? Because they've had from cameos to full-on reoccurring guests.
They've had everybody on Curb, man.
yeah. Who are some of your guys' favorites?
Well, let's see here.
I'll throw out while you're
go
looking
ahead.
one Shaq.
Oh yes,
absolutely.
that's right. He wanted like the tape of the contest, right?
Yeah, the episode was Larry got floor seats to a Laker game.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, floor seats, I can stretch my feet out, and and he trips Shaq.
That's right.
And he like ruins his like knee, or I don't know what exactly happens to him, and everybody in LA hates him. Everyone hates him. It's like the understudy episode of Seinfeld when they hurt Bette Midler, and everybody just wants him dead. Like you son of a bitch! Like, you cost us the season. And yeah, he gets him like every Seinfeld on VHS, and he's like, all right, we're good. Yeah, Shaq's great, man. I love Shaq.
That was a good one.
Like for like one episode off, I also throw out Christian Slater just because I like Christian Slater. He didn't do anything that special, but it was good to see him.
No, it is good. I'll toss one in there while Mike's kind of scanning his very elaborate notes, and I feel like I have to call that out. He came prepared. I've been very impressed with the guests the last few weeks of everybody coming with like a whole dossier about their topic.
That's what we like.
We do like that. Stephen Colbert on the street
Yeah,
in
as a
the
one-off, yeah.
opening night, yeah. But he's just like a random like side character. It was like pre like him getting big,
Right.
and it's so weird. He's like, you're gonna fail.
I like remembered him being it, didn't remember his thing, but when you did that, I was like, yes.
He's like, oh shit, I'm gonna fail. Oh, that's a great season. But yeah, you mentioned Stephen Colbert, Michael York, Mel Brooks, of course, Ben Stiller. I think my favorite though, gotta be Bill Buckner.
Oh God, yeah. Let's talk about a real life incident that they
Right.
spoofed,
Is that
right?
sports?
It is sports.
I was like, how do I not know this?
If you're not familiar with sports, Bill Buckner was a player on the Red Sox who many claim cost them the World Series. It was a slow roll ball, whatever. He didn't make the play. Mets win. Everyone hates him. Like everywhere he goes, people throw shit at him and whatnot. And in this episode, Mookie Wilson, the player that got the hit on Bill Buckner, is Jeff's favorite player, and he gets an autograph for him. Ends up talking with Bill Buckner, and it's like, how do you deal with that? How do you walk around every day? Everyone just like, oh, you son of a bitch, like you know. It's like 30 years ago, like let it go, right? Mm-hmm. And he ends up becoming real good friends with them. Brings him back to the place. Hey, I got the. He's standing by the window, throws it to him, and it goes out the window. And it's like, oh, no.
Oh, my gosh.
However, at the end of the episode, there's an instant where there's a fire, and there's a woman with a baby out the window, and she has to throw it out the window, and it bounces off the fireman things, and everyone's like, no. And then here comes Bill Buckner, and everyone's like, no. But, of course, Bill Buckner makes the catch, saves the day, and that is probably one of my favorite moments of Curb. I love the win moments of Curb. We don't get many of them. I know it wasn't a Larry moment, but that is like tears come to my eyes when I think about that moment,
Equal parts funny and also kind of gratifying because, Buckner a very famous GOAT in Boston sports, but obviously he wasn't able to do this episode until they won a World Series for real. Because I think there would have been still a lot of spite for the poor guy. It's just poor timing, but yeah. I mean, hard to imagine there was once upon a time the Red Sox just didn't win. They've like won 3 since then.
Seriously.
But yeah, it's a great cameo. There's so many good ones out there. I don't know. Is there any others that are like notable that we're missing? Like any big ones? I guess I can think of 2 that I do love. Yeah, that we haven't talked about.
I loved Fred Armisen on there as the man with the walker.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was the funniest. It was the funniest shit because he was just like he was in the way and like, what are you gonna like? You just move to the side, and he befriends him. And of course, Larry being Larry, takes advantage of his handicap parking.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you can just park anywhere. It's like, yeah, I can park right up in front. And it's like, oh, well, we should hang out sometime. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
I
it's a
love Fred
very
Armisen.
George move.
It is.
Absolutely.
It fits very well with Armisen too, and just kind of his, I don't know, personality a little bit.
Oh, and let's not forget Albert Brooks either. He was on there
Yes.
also. Bob Einstein's real life brother, if you did not know that.
Yeah. I learned that when Bob Einstein died, and that was really surprising.
Did you watch that, Doc? I haven't.
No, I haven't
I just
yet.
want to see it because, like, I only knew him from Curb, and then I saw that, and they were like, "This is like one of the funniest guys that's been around forever."
Yeah.
Super Dave, man. You don't know Super Dave?
No, I don't. That's the doc. It's all about Super Dave, the doc. So, I definitely want to check it out. You said I thought you were gonna say what I was gonna say was Mel Brooks.
Yeah, I did. I mentioned Mel Brooks.
Oh, he did. Cool.
I love Mel Brooks. That season was just wow.
Yeah.
I'm just a big fan of Mel Brooks. Anything Mel Brooks touches, I will just like. Yes, I will watch that Mel Brooks.
Absolutely.
Give me.
Mel Brooks definitely a big reason I think why I ended up pursuing comedy. I just loved his movies
absolutely.
so much.
Maybe it'll be an episode someday.
Ooh, let's see what that looks like. It's a lot of movies to go through, but yeah, I'm definitely interested. Albert Brooks, just getting back to that though, real quick. Yeah, love me some Albert Brooks. Best cameo I think on The Simpsons too. One of the best guest stars on there.
That's 100% my favorite episode. Is whatever that one.
You
That's
only
when
move
they
twice.
go
Yeah.
to
Yes.
the
Yeah.
he gets the new job, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Albert Brooks is like a Bond villain, basically.
I just saw Albert Brooks in Out of Sight. I've never seen Out of Sight. Have you seen Out of Sight?
Is that
It's
Steven
Clooney?
Seagal? It is Steven Seagal.
It's Steven Soderbergh's George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
Don Cheadle. Pretty much this movie is a dry run for Ocean's 11. It's shot the same. It's got Clooney and Don Cheadle in it, but it's like and it's the writer Elmore Leonard. And I'll say this, Michael Keaton, he plays the same role twice, once in Jackie Brown and once in
That's
Out of
right,
Sight.
he's the same
that's
character.
artist. Yes, okay. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
He's a detective, right.
Which
Yeah.
a really random carryover because I don't really remember Keaton and Jackie Brown, but
One scene. It was like one scene.
Yeah, he's good at it, but yeah, he's doing his thing. He's chewing his gum. He's all about it.
Yeah.
And some good Dennis Farina in that movie. I'd recommend Out of Sight.
I like Dennis Farina.
it's a fun movie for
not
sure.
fun.
The last ones I'll say before we get into power rankings is Ted Danson and Mary Steenburgen.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to get regular characters here? We can talk about regular characters.
Yeah, I mean, we got a long list. We've touched on a lot of, but I feel like we can't get through this without talking about the Danson a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody who also knows about 11 seasons out of sitcom.
Yeah.
With Cheers, but I don't know. It's so fun to know that they're still together in real life, right?
I think so.
Danson and Steenburgen.
That I'm not sure.
I finished Justified over like the last year, and she's the big heavy villain. Mary Steenburgen is the big heavy villain of one of the seasons, and it's pretty great.
Oh man, yeah, they are still married for sure. There's a question on Google though: is Ted Danson still married to Whoopi Goldberg? That was
Yeah.
never a thing, was
Yeah,
it?
it was.
Oh, yes, it was.
You don't remember his infamous thing where he did the blackface? Apparently, then they said, I don't know if this is true, it was Whoopi Goldberg's idea.
Yeah. That does not make it better.
No.
What?
And I don't even know if that's true, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, so this was something years and years ago.
For sure. This is like
I'd probably say late 80s, early 90s.
My goodness. Oh, while he was still with his wife. Oh, okay, this is a whole history I don't know.
We're doing a Ted Danson episode next?
The Cheers episode is going to take a while, man. We'll have to decide how we handle that in Frasier at some point. But yeah, I love them on Curb. I just think they're so funny. I love that they've somehow invented this whole thing where now he's with Cheryl. And I love that whole background in the season of him just like getting beat up in the background or like thrown around because he was playing Larry's uncle in that show that they were like trying to cast.
yeah.
I don't know, Ted Danson just plays like the perfect like guy that you kind of feel like you should hate but you just can't quite hate him all the
Yeah,
way.
because he hasn't necessarily done anything wrong per se. He's just an asshole about it.
Yeah.
He's a little smug coming off in the show.
Pompous. Yeah.
Yes, pompous. That's a good way to put it. So, lest we dance around it any further, we should get into the power rankings for this week. And as we start talking through all these characters and all these great moments, I want to know what your guys' favorite seasons are. And maybe you can highlight an episode or two that really made that season sing. So, Mike, if you want to kick us off, the honor is yours.
Sure, I can do that. This was a tough one for me. You know, going back to what Fred said earlier about Seinfeld being scripted and Curb being more improv, the episodes aren't as necessarily memorable. You just remember a theme of the episode. There's no lines, like there's no big monologue that I can think of from Curb that stands out at all to me. All right. I will say, and this is maybe even controversial.
Oh.
But I will say that seasons 4, obviously that's probably one of the best seasons, the one with Mel Brooks with the producers. The overall theme is fantastic. The ending, the characters, the celebrities, great.
Yeah, so that's the season they're putting together, the production of the producers.
Correct.
One of the few times I've liked David Schwimmer. Nothing against him. I just never really got the David Schwimmer thing, but
Me either.
I like his sap. Like I really liked him in Curb, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was great. You know, and I like Ben Stiller. And that season, I just hated him so much. It's like the Lin-Manuel Miranda deal. Also in that season, there's the Weatherman, which, if you all aren't familiar, Larry has an idea or a suspicion that the weatherman is telling people it's going to rain when it's going to be sunny the next day, so he can go and have the golf course all to himself.
Yeah.
Also is the carpool lane in season 4, and that is, I mean, come on now. Like, if you didn't know, there's a documentary called Long Shot about that episode.
Oh, yeah.
Where Larry David and the crew of Curb Your Enthusiasm actually got a guy off from going to jail for murder.
Yeah.
Fantastic documentary. If y'all want to check it out, it's on Netflix.
I do need to watch that because they've got Larry David being interviewed in it, right?
Yes, it is so worth the watch.
Right. It's basically like the Thin Blue Line, right? Where like they found this video footage from the show, right? This guy was at this game while they
He
were
just
filming.
happened to be there, happened to be in the right section, right area. They got him on film, but is it enough to get him off?
That's wild.
Yeah. What else is that episode of that season? The Survivor. Y'all remember The Survivor?
Yes.
That's some cringe right there, man.
Yeah,
That's
that one
some
is
tough
up. That
stuff
one's
to
probably the
watch.
hardest one.
So remind me what the Survivor is again.
The Survivor is, there was a house party, and somebody asked if I can invite, my cousin or whoever, his family member. He was a survivor, and Larry takes it to being, he's a survivor from like the Holocaust. So maybe I'll invite my father's friend who's also a survivor. They'll have something in common. They show up, and it was a former contestant on the television show Survivor.
Oh no!
Check out our previous episode about Survivor.
He is comparing about how hard it was for him on the island. I didn't even have any like bathrooms. We had no toilet paper. We had no snacks. It was awful. Yeah.
Snacks.
Yeah. We had nothing. We didn't go. Yeah. It's oh man. It is a tough watch.
And then later, I know the Holocaust survivor. Larry's in a car with him, and I think he has like a glass eye, the Holocaust survivor.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like creating a glare on Larry David, and the guy has like trembles because he's old. And Larry David's trying to block the glare, and he thinks that Larry David is mocking him. So it has that level on top. That's just another layer to your peanut butter and cringe sandwich.
Oh my god.
The other seasons, I will say that I like. Season 8, which has one of my favorite episodes, is the Palestinian chicken.
Yes.
And it's almost tougher to watch than the Survivor episode, man, because that is... Oy.
It's a good term for it.
Oh man, it is. Yeah, it's a rough one.
That's rough.
Y'all ain't familiar. It's about a restaurant has opened up, a Palestinian chicken restaurant. They open up right next to a Jewish deli, causes some turmoil in the community. And at this time, Funkhauser is divorced, so he's wearing his yarmulke again. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get some chicken. I can go if I want to go in." Larry does not let him go in with the yarmulke, and upon returning back into the restaurant, they all applaud, and it is like, oh my
Because they think he ripped it off of him, and
like you, yes, good job for you not bringing that Jew in here, and it's like, oh my god, dude.
And isn't it like they have like a like sexy lady who works there, and she's into him, and he's like, oh god.
They're having sex, and I'm not going to repeat this. I do not feel comfortable. I was so uncomfortable watching it, and it's like, oh, I can't even, no.
Yeah. We get the picture.
This ain't that type of podcast.
Derogatory terms towards
people from Israel.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, just an all-timer episode for sure, too. And an all-time gif at the very end when Larry is torn between his friends and his love interest from the Palestinian chicken restaurant.
Oh my
that. But I will say that probably the best season is season 7, obviously, the reunion. I mean, this is what everyone wanted. This is what everybody wanted. This is why everyone had to curb their enthusiasm, because the show was another Seinfeld. But we'll give you a little taste. Give you a season and a half an episode. That's enough. That's enough.
And it's a pretty good bit. I don't know in the DVDs, but did they ever make like a cut together full episode?
That I'm not sure. I don't have all the DVDs of Curb.
I'm kind of curious about that, because I feel like they probably wrote a full episode,
right?
Sure, or at least there's a version you can find it spliced together, at least.
Because I think that last episode is a 40-minute long episode, and almost half of it is just watching the show. If I recall, it's close to like the 20, but I'd say it's more like 13 minutes of actual watch.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then you could even find extra material from when they were rehearsing or filming, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I would have filmed it and put it on the bonus features.
I think that would have been a real fun idea.
It'd be foolish if they didn't, I think.
Even just a 10-minute episode would be a lot of fun to watch. I'm going to cut in front of you real quick, Fred.
No, that's
even though
cool.
I usually go anchor. I'm going to make you the anchor this week, because I'm actually just going to say I completely match Mike on all my picks.
What?
But I will probably put number 8, season 8, as my number 1.
Sure.
Because it not only has that good Palestinian chicken episode, it's also got that Michael J. Fox episode. I'm a big fan of that one, too.
That is a good point.
I mean, the whole thing is just it's Larry versus Michael J. Fox. I'm pretty sure that's the exact name of the episode, too.
You know what? Bill Buckner episode is season 8 also.
Yep.
And the Mr. Softy episode. We had to have mentioned Mr. Softy
Is that
episode.
Catherine Hahn? Is Hahn on in that?
Oh, is that the one with the seats?
That's Mr. Softy. Is like the girl was gonna give him an HJ back in the day, but he couldn't.
Right.
You know, and I think later it's Catherine Hahn who calls him Mr. Softy, because he hears the ice cream truck drive by, and it's the song that makes him impotent.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Agatha all along.
That's funny.
Oh, shit, that's
so
funny.
many great bits for her. Yeah, I'll pass it off to you, Fred. Any differences?
Not many. I'm gonna say in order. Mine is 4, 8, 7.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
so like I think I said before we record, I don't remember what episodes until you guys said we're in season 8, but I remember the season after the Seinfeld one coming back and being like, ooh, what are they going to do now? That was pretty big. And I just remember being like, these are all like absolute bangers.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I just remember that was even like the conversation at the time. People are like, that Seinfeld season was good, but this is like some of the best that he's written so far. Like the curve is like back.
Wait, I also got to shout out one of the most uncomfortable moments that I laughed the loudest and I felt bad laughing at was the one where he meets the handicapped girl. And at the end, he wheels her into the closet. I howled so hard, but I felt so bad while doing it.
Yeah, Denise handicapped.
Yes.
Yep.
That's season.
Wendy wheelchair.
Is that what? That's around that time, but I don't think it is that time.
I think it's earlier than you think.
It is season 7.
Yep.
So it's the Seinfeld season.
It is.
I mean, listeners believe the rest of the series is worth watching for sure. But if you are going to narrow your viewing experiences to 3, and I don't think you need a lot of background outside of that.
As long as you know that he's the creator of Seinfeld and that these characters are his friends.
Yeah.
Sorta.
Right, sort of. I mean, those are definitely the 3 seasons you can circle and try diving in.
Yeah, and if that piques your interest, you got.
If anybody's actually made it this far and not seen Kirby before.
Right. And most recently, I forgot him, but I really liked when Ham was like studying to be like Larry, and we got to see John Hamm do Larry. That was
really
great.
Good. He did a really good job. Like I didn't expect. Not that John Hamm is a bad actor. He's not. I think he's great. I love John Hamm, but him to be Larry just seems like he's such a likable guy. Why would he want to play a jerk? You know,
Right.
I can't tell you guys how excited I am for the John Hamm Fletch movie, because that's the first time I heard an actor actually, like, because I think he's a charming dude who's funny. Like, he's gonna be able to actually do it. When they were gonna do it in the '90s, they were gonna have Kevin Smith do it with who's his guy? My Name's Earl.
Oh, Jason Lee.
Jason Lee. John Hamm, much better choice.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
That's
I love Fletch.
It's very chubby.
Doctor. Come on now. Oh no, that's Spies Like Us, isn't it?
I think so. No,
that's
or is it
Fletch?
Fletch?
I know he goes to a doctor's office in Fletch. Because he's like Dr. Manababum or whatever he says.
Gosh.
Dr. Manababum.
Fletch has no business being as good as it is.
Seriously.
So I think that brings us to the end of our episode then, unfortunately, because this has been a fun ride. Very Curb-like episode of State of the Franchise, which feels like a very meta statement in itself. But lest we depart without saying some kind words about things that we're going to be involved in, anything that you would like to plug, Mr. Schwantz?
Well, I don't want to be the odd one out and mention Interchange Theater, but just got accepted into a new improv group for myself, Glitter Bomb. So I'm not sure where our next show is. Not for a month or so, I imagine.
No, but we always point our listeners to the interchangetheater.com. Is that what it is, Tom?
It is.
Sponsor.
And yeah, go check out a lot of shows there. And if you see Glitter Bomb, you might be seeing Schwantz and I.
That's right. So that's interchangetheater.com. Look up the show Glitter Bomb for the end of July, early August showings potentially, or maybe even a little bit after that. Also say an early happy birthday here for you, a couple of days early, Mike. But
thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. No such thing.
That's a plug that's worth mentioning any day of the year. What about you, Fred? Anything that you would like to plug as separate from Glitter Bomb?
No, I just want everyone to have a nice summer this summer.
Yeah. Hopefully it's going well for everyone so far. Obviously, times are crazy, but hopefully people are finding a little joy in this episode or beyond. That being said, if you have any questions for the podcast, please feel free to email Fred and I at stateofthefranchisepodcast@gmail.com. We will absolutely answer your questions on air if you have anything for us. So that's stateofthefranchisepodcast@gmail.com. I'll also mention we have our Buy Me a Coffee page. If you're interested in donating to the episode. All the money that you donate will go right back into the episode. We'll be introducing some tiers here coming up where you can make a repeat donation. We're just trying to hit our subscription fees for $50 a month. That's our subscription fees, not yours, in order to support this podcast on a monthly basis. And we really appreciate anything you can offer. But if times are tight and you don't have any money, I just hope you're enjoying it, and tell somebody about this show. Really helps to mention it. Rate and review our podcast wherever you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. All of those are great. And we'll see you next time when we'll be discussing the topic of Doctor Who.
Oh.
Gonna get a little wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Get more David Tennant takes from me. I'm gonna whip out the old crushed red pepper container. I think I might bring it with me,
You should bring that for
like
that
as a
episode.
demonstration for our guests.
Absolutely. Thank you again for being here, Mike. Really appreciate you coming in this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a blast.
And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time. Glad to have you here. How you feeling?
Pretty.
I was loving the softball.
I felt so genius when I heard it too. I was like, this is the time.